So this session is called Programmatic Direct Mail and how tailored brands, Lulu and Georgia, took a performance-driven approach. And so joining us today, we have Carolyn Pollock, the CMO from Tailored Brands, Julia Metaxes, the head of growth for Lulu and Georgia, and Jacob Ross, the CEO of PebblePost. So I will let them take it away.
Cool. Is this on? Can you hear me? Okay, great. That was the number one, the first cliche of the afternoon. It's nice to be here, and it's nice to be here with you two. I just thought before we start on the conversation, we'll talk a little bit about programmatic direct mail. Why does it matter? Why are we here? Why are we talking about direct mail as part of this sort of making traditional channels new again? I would just say that what we see is that consumer behavior is changing dramatically. It always does, but even now it seems to be accelerating in many ways with privacy concerns, with people getting overwhelmed from various advertising touch points. There's a stat that some of you will agree is true and some of you will say is not true, that we see 10,000 ads per day. Who believes that that's true? Some people. If you believe that, then you could also believe that in the 70s that number was 10 times less. So it's undeniable that we're being inundated with more and more marketing messages, and at the same time cookies are going away, tracking is harder, consumer behavior is changing, and marketers are looking for new and effective ways to reach their consumers, to engage with consumers in a way that matters. And so that's why we're here today. What PebblePost does is we take that to heart. We take a traditional advertising channel. Direct mail is a $40 billion a year advertising channel. And well, we've sort of rethought it. We've said, let's make this channel look and feel like digital. We want to know what people are interested in. We want to reach them effectively and quickly within 24 hours of them showing interest in a product or service. And we want to be able to measure that result on any point in sale. And so in that way, programmatic direct mail becomes part of an omni-channel marketer's strategy, ideally. But we all know that testing new things isn't that straightforward. There's ins and outs about it. So that's what we're here to talk about today. So the first question to get to the fun part is maybe we already did quick intros. Thank you, Vicki. Maybe go a little bit deeper and talk about your role at your company and a little bit about kind of what your marketing strategy is. And maybe we'll start with you, Julia.
Yeah, so I can start. I'm Julia Metaxes, VP of Growth at Lulu in Georgia. We are an e-commerce home decor and furnishing retailer. And my role includes all of our performance marketing, site merchandising, and then our sales team dedicated to the trade. And I think that what we have been always really focused on, but especially right now, is having just a really agile and efficient marketing program. So we have been around for 10 years, but I would say our growth really accelerated in 2018 and 2019, and then really, really accelerated in 2020. And I think that because we had just started really diversifying our mix in 2019, that really allowed us to take advantage of the increase in demand that we saw in 2020 with everyone stuck at home and really scale those channels very profitably. So I think agility is a really big word for us right now, as we're just really rolling with it. There's a lot of uncertainty and changes happening, so we're just trying to make sure we're making the best of everything that we can.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And I'm Carolyn Pollock, the CMO at Tailored Brands. So we have a portfolio of menswear brands. We have Men's Warehouse, Joseph A. Bank, K&G, and then Moore's in Canada. And I started my role at the beginning of 2020, well, actually February 1st, so great time to join retail 6 weeks before we shut our stores. Yeah. And when I started, we, like the vast majority of our spend was still very rooted in traditional channels like TV and direct mail, and very traditional approach to direct mail. Our direct mail program would take 8 weeks or so to get out the door. We had catalogs, that kind of thing as well. And we started, and the journey got very accelerated during COVID, but a much more digitally focused, mixed, and highly focused on optimizing and driving efficiencies and that. And so, we've had a laser sharp focus on ROAS for quite some time. In fact, someone gave me a hat that says ROAS, which I treasure. But so, similarly, like as we look for where we can get more efficiencies and continue to optimize, like we just really believe in the power of the mix, and that, like these traditional channels still play a role in our mix. Like TV absolutely is still an important component of what we do, but we balance it a lot more now with the digital channels. And I think that was sort of where we got excited about what PebblePost brought, was that we were then able to take this rigor and discipline that we'd put into targeting and measurement with digital that we can now apply to a direct mail channel, but with greater speed as well. So
yeah. Maybe just building on that, today, how does programmatic direct mail fit into your marketing mix, and how do you look at it? Is it a digital channel, or is it a traditional channel, or does it matter?
I think for the way we look at it, like it fits in our digital playbook, but it's run by our direct mail team, and we're applying like similar kind of targeting disciplines for the aspects that are more targeted like that. But then the aspects where it enables us to retarget visitors to our website, like that's almost like a digital mentality, but then we're delivering an offline piece. And what we love about that is just the way that breaks through, right? So someone's so accustomed now to getting retargeted with a display ad or whatever on a news site or whatever, but to actually have something show up in your mailbox, it breaks through to their customer.
Yeah, we actually trademarked, and we haven't used yet, but we've trademarked the term survive the sort, which is the process of when you go to your mailbox, and then while you're walking into your house or apartment, you kind of like separate the mail into what you want to bring in and what you don't want to bring in. And our mission in life is to make sure that we survive the sort, and that is, it's kind of like a metaphor for something. I don't know. So same question for you, Julia. How do you look at? You've been a partner of ours, a client partner of ours for a long time. How do you look at programmatic direct mail as part of your marketing mix? Has that changed over time? And
we launched with PebblePost in I think May 2020. So we had a few months prior to that tested our first catalog. It's funny because I actually come from a direct mail background. My first job out of college, I worked at the Danbury Mint, which probably nobody here even knows of because it's really old people that we were targeting. But I was very quickly, a few years into that, I was like, all right, let's transition to digital. Let's get out of this. This is a dying industry, need to be digital. Did the whole digital switch. And then, now there's this resurgence. So it's really actually quite funny to me to be working on direct mail and to be so passionate about what we're doing there. So we launched a catalog program in October 2019. We launched programmatic direct mail with retargeting in 2020. And it's really like an in-between, I would say, right? Because you're getting the benefits of direct mail. So you're getting really that physical piece. We both have high average order values. We're considered purchases, right? So the ability to have those multiple lasting touch points with the consumer is, I think, why direct mail does work so well in our business. When a customer comes to our site, they're not gonna spend $4,000 on their first visit buying a sofa, right? So we need to make sure we're retargeting them and not just surviving the sort, surviving all of the clutter in your inbox, surviving now even SMS. I used to think SMS was the channel that was, that they're reading it because they have, and I have now so many unread texts in my own phone. So making that physical touch is just so impactful. But what I love about it, going back to agility, is that we're now grouping it in when we do our budget allocations, we're grouping it in as one of our paid digital channels. So when we're constantly moving budget around. We meet the start of every month, we look at, okay, what are our sales gonna be for the month? Based on our ROAS targets, what budget do we have? And then we, every week, are refining that. So I'll message you guys mid-month and be like, hey, we got some extra budget to throw here. And it's really nice now to know that if we're overspent on Google, let's say, we can reallocate that to this channel, which is one of our most incremental. iROAS hat is what I'm gonna get you, because that's really from day one, we've had a holdout. And I think everyone needs to be focused on incrementality. Top line ROAS, I'll be honest, anytime I get on a presentation and they start talking about, in the top line ROAS, I said, okay, let's scroll down. You have a slide on incrementality. I just wanna focus on that. That is my North Star of whether this is working or not. Every platform for me has an amazing ROAS. So I don't trust any of those. But so we implemented recently a MMM platform. So I think you guys, you mentioned, are doing the same. So it's really just such a great opportunity now to see like what's really working and not working.
Yeah,
Julia,
I mean,
can
that's
you share which platform you implemented?
Yeah, so we're using Lift Lab, which has been really transformed the way that we are able to really allocate budgets and just have confidence knowing where we're spending.
Cool. Sorry, Carolyn.
Yeah, and similarly, so the MMM that we've built out now is super robust and absolutely has us shifting. You know, we look at ROAS from an operational standpoint, but it definitely the incrementality is what drives our investment decisions. And I think, the value of that is huge, and but it helps you also look at each channel. And what we're seeing with the contribution that direct mail is now making, it's a totally different way to look at direct mail, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And could you generalize that and say that in this kind of environment, incrementality has become more important as you're testing new things, and that incremental lift measurement has become more important, or has it always been that way, and you just have more tools to explore that stuff now?
Oh yeah, I mean, when we look at, okay, where does the next dollar go, or where does the first dollar get cut, you know, the measure is always going to be what's the incremental contribution, to the point where we can actually start thinking about marketing as a profit center, because if you can prove out that, you know, I'm going to drive, you give me this dollar, I will drive you, you know, $2 in incremental margin, like, who wouldn't take that deal all day long, right? So it starts to really change the way our budgets are looked at, and the partnership that I've built with our CFO now to start to look at it that way is really huge.
One of the challenges we had early on in our history, and this is not just for PebblePost, but for all channels that have to prove themselves as a newcomer on the block when we launched in 2015, is the ROAS was great, and we get feedback from the brand that says, hey, this is phenomenal, it's actually too good to be true, we don't believe it. And we said, damn it. You know, like, okay. And so we went back, and direct mail has this really amazing ability, because it's all household-based targeting, to actually do really clean holdout groups, suppress existing customers in a very, very accurate way, and then have always-on incrementality studies that allow brands to kind of continuously measure that stuff. So that's been helpful, and for us, in the theme of kind of emerging channels, which this track is, that testing, that ability to prove a test with incrementality has been very helpful to a lot of the brands that we work with.
Yep.
I would add too, just like creative testing, right? Like I love the mail because it's so clear, right? We sent this creative to this person, we sent this creative to that person, and you just know like what they responded to, and it's not like, oh, well, did they see both ads on Facebook, and you know which one actually drove the purchase? It just feels so clear cut, which as a marketer I love.
Yeah, and building on the holdouts too. I mean, like we're getting to a place where you're looking at things like universal holdouts that allow you to understand frequency impacts as well. And again, like not something that is as easy to do in other digital channels.
So you mentioned something that sounded like work that your team was going to do, that measuring that universal holdout. Maybe we didn't prepare this question, but I'll throw this out there anyway. How did your organization support test and learn in the right way? And have you had to make any changes, just kind of, there are a lot of marketers here tactically and operationally to better support testing emerging channels, not just PebblePost, but CTV and digital out of home and all these others exciting new kind of frontiers? Maybe, Julia, you want to?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's just incrementality. It's a very repetitive term, but making sure that when we test something new, we can prove that it's adding value, really adding value. We tend to start small, and then we'll start just taking it up from there once we see it's working. And then now we're able with our platform that we use to really see like where those diminishing returns are. So as we start to scale and scale and scale, we'll start to have a better understanding of, okay, we're getting to the point now where maybe the last dollar in wasn't profitable or was close to not being profitable. So now we know we've kind of hit our sweet spot. I would say, we have really great, kind of like you were mentioning, like it's profit center, right? So if we're proving the ROAS and we're proving that the channel works, we don't necessarily have like a set budget. We're able to just consistently, if we're making more, we can spend more.
Yeah, until you realize that point of diminishing return, right? So knowing that and having that be really clearly mapped out, and that you're constantly kind of revising it as market dynamics change is super important. And the way that we've been thinking about incrementality is that we run again, like we didn't have this rigor and discipline when I started because it was so like TV and, there was some good rigor around the direct mail program, but very not there on the TV side. So as we built up that muscle, we've had to build up that muscle around testing. And, we started small and did like simple little A/B tests. And then you start realizing, if you just test one channel in isolation, you're not getting the understanding of the impact that it has on the whole mix. So we've now built out a whole system where we run match market tests, and we'll run match market tests on, putting a ton more money into one particular channel and seeing the impact that has, pulling back money out of another channel and seeing the impact that has, and running them all. You can run them all in parallel because you're doing them in different markets. We have tools that help us with that with our store footprint. We look to match like where we've got large stores versus very small stores, that kind of thing, as well as all the other kind of attributes of a market. And then we also test like bigger mix tests where we just fund many elements of the mix and then, don't do that in other markets. And it starts to, you feed all those data points together and it starts to give us a much better picture and really helps us validate the mix model that we've built as well.
Yeah.
That's great.
We do the same with the going channel by channel. We don't have the confidence to do all the channels simultaneously, so we're kind of going from one to the next. But it's really nice to then validate and feed that back into the model.
And once you start, like we started the same way. Like we started with individual channels, and then you start building that confidence that it's okay to like take the leap.
So in terms, so we have a few minutes left. Maybe we open it up a little bit beyond programmatic direct mail. As you think about the rest of this year in the ready room or whatever they call it, you mentioned the word uncertainty, which is a great word that keeps being echoed around this year. So in the current climate with the uncertainty and what we see is a lot of our marketers are under immense pressure to deliver results, be faster at being more agile, to use your word. What are some of the next things you're looking to test this year, or what are the kinds of problem areas that you're looking to address? Love to hear kind of how you're looking at the year going forward.
Yeah, so in terms of new channels, we're taking a hold. We're really just focusing on optimizing our existing channel mix, really focusing on efficiency. So cutting where we need to cut, scaling where we can scale. Again, looking and comparing kind of that apples to apples view that we're getting by not ignoring the in-platform results that we're seeing, but to be quite frank, they were all looking too good because they're all taking credit for the same order. So really just now having that level playing field of being able to look at channels, and then like I said, every single week we meet and we move money around. And we're really trying to be as quick as we can, and if there's something that's working, we want to make sure we're juicing that as much as we can. So I think that's really what's able to still allow us to be profitable right now and continue to grow profitably.
That's great. That makes tons of sense.
So we're coming off of what was billed last year as the year of the wedding, and for our businesses, weddings are a prime customer acquisition mechanism for us. We get a ton of new customers that came in the door, and we realized that was its own little special moment as well, and like now it's more about what do we do to maintain that customer as well as continue to grow new customers. So more than ever, we're starting and we'll continue to do this as we go through the years, that we're really looking at the mix not only across the channels, but then within the channels on existing customers versus new customers. And while it may be slightly more expensive to target those existing customers, the ability to get them to come back is obviously better, and therefore ultimately they end up being cheaper. So a lot of our optimization now is happening around like how do we manage that mix of continuing to fill the funnel with new customers, but continue to grow the existing, and that ultimately drives better channel efficiencies and effectiveness. We see better response rates overall, obviously too. So I think that like managing that understanding is going to continue to be really important for us, and then keeping that customer focus, so also understanding from a creative standpoint, like what are the things that really resonate, and that's where we've also like looked to how do we better respond to what a customer's needing, how do we leverage personalization capabilities more to make sure that we're getting the right message to them. So it's a continuous like whether it's weekly or daily, like fine tuning the knobs and the dials to make sure that you're getting that right message out.
It never stops. It's always tinkering, right?
Yeah. No, that's a great answer. Well, I feel like we're going to run out of time if I ask you another question, so maybe we just cut it there. But thank you so much. You've been fantastic partners. We've learned so much from both of you, and it's been really fun. So thanks for sharing your experience, and
Thanks.
Thank you.
thanks everybody for
Thank you.
listening.